Hey guys, Maddie here from DCL Blogger. Thought I'd go through a video talking about whether you should hodl or flip an NFT. Very broad topic, and it depends based on the niche that you're in. There's many things happening in the NFT space, from art to gaming to collectibles to virtual land to God knows what other niches there will be in this space. But let's just go through some of the examples where flipping may make sense, some of the examples where holding might make sense. By the way, this is my Twitter. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. I do a bunch of YouTube stuff, and I'm always sharing everything I know on Twitter. So Twitter or YouTube, if you're on that, you are good. Now, it's a very broad topic, right? It's a broad topic because there's because the economy of NFTs is quite complex. Now, one example, let's talk about holding, right? Hodling your NFTs. Now, CryptoPunks is a great example of what hodling would have done for you if you had just sat on your CryptoPunk that you bought for 0.02 Ethereum on May 30th, 2018. Or maybe you bought it all the way down here on 2019 for 0.3 Ethereum, right? You just hodled it all the way through with the belief that it's one of the first Ethereum NFTs, and Ethereum might become a big NFT. If NFT industry might be big on Ethereum, then maybe this will have value long term. So yes, you could have flipped your way in between. You could have maybe found a few opportunities to flip your particular punk for a lot more and bought some other punks with it to reposition yourself. But I don't think you would have kicked yourself for doing that if in the long term your CryptoPunk would have been minimum, looks like 80 Ethereum, 80 Ethereum being 240,000 USD. Quite interesting. In the case of CryptoPunks, where history matters and the growth of NFTs on Ethereum means that CryptoPunks will always be significant, right? And I think anything in the historical timeline of the NFT space. So if I click on, there's a really cool image or graph here, if I can pull it up on my profile that I shared a while ago. But it shows you a bunch of projects that exist in the timeline of NFTs. So if NFTs goes on for the next 10 to 20 years, and we know there's probably going to be thousands and thousands of projects every year in the NFT space from now onwards, just because it's just so buzzing, right? But before that, CryptoPunks exists over here on, just in mid 2017. So there's a bunch of ones before that. So it does make sense, in my opinion, to hodl anything in this historical timeline where they're kind of considered artifacts now. If CryptoPunks has gone on to do that much, then maybe Curio Cards is starting to pick up, which I have some of. But Curio Cards was recently tweeted by Gary V, and you can see the same sort of thing happening with this. Although this wrapping contract was only made recently, these have existed non-ERC 721 standard for a while before this. But you can see recently it's starting to show these bumps and signs of some massive growth signals, right? In fact, most recently, one sold for about 200 Ethereum, or 198 Ethereum, which is like 620,000 USD. So it was a lot of money. And we're starting to see similar sort of signs with anything historic. So with these sort of projects which are historic, or even those that may go on to have millions of players. Again, I have some Mystic Axes, but Axie Infinity has seen a player-based growth of million people plus now playing Axie Infinity. So if you would have had faith in the growth of this game, then you would have purchased some of the early Axes, Mystic Axes being the golden trophies of the Axie Infinity world, where they were launched in the start, and they were the origin Axes, and you would have had a chance to maybe roll a Mystic Axie or any of these parts. Mystic, in this case, the red Nemo, the ear is a Mystic Axie. And you can see here at the bottom, somewhere Jan 3rd, this was sold for 1 ETH. This guy flipped it for 1.1 to 2019. This guy sold it for 0.8, 0.85, 0.78. This guy flipped it for 1.75. He flipped it for 2.9, which I bought it, Matty DCL Core, at 2.9 Ethereum, thinking that the growth rate of Axie Infinity looks good. It should have hundreds of thousands of players, which it did go on to have. And because of that theory, my 2.9 Ethereum has now become a minimum of, say, 25 Ethereum, right? The cheapest Mystic Axie you can get is my one at 26.8, but there has been some recent sales of 30 and above, so I think it's worth about 25, let's say conservatively, and that's a 10x gain, right? So if you think historically they will retain value or the game will go on to do really, really well, in my opinion, I would hodl those NFTs. Now, where does it make sense? Again, like another example of a very early project, again, I have some of these, is Treeverse. Treeverse being a Treeverse being sort of a RuneScape style game that's being created, where you can go in and talk to people and maybe equip your NFTs and put them on your room and stuff like that. And it sort of reminds me of Habbo Hotel / RuneScape. It's pretty cool. And there's only 10,000 of these, 10,420. And as of recently, they launched. Maybe they launched like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but you can see the price steadily going up because I think the game will do good, right? I think the game long term will do good, and there'll be hundreds of, or if not thousands of people hanging out in there. And you can see that there was a time when it was selling for about 0.4 or 0.3, and then it suddenly boomed to about 1.5, and that's kind of come down a little bit to about 1.2, the average. So it is come down a little bit, but I think long term it'll do good. So maybe there would have been some opportunity to flip some at 1.6 and then rebuy. It's quite difficult. It's kind of like an ERC20 or a cryptocurrency token that you can flip if you think you're at the top. But in my opinion, if it's a long-term thing, then this will be a minuscule bump in the long thing. So if you have a long-term view of this project doing well, then I would suggest you to hodl it out. Similar thing with Twitter, another hodl thing. This is the first NFTs Twitter ever released, selling for 69, 50, 35 ETH. They kind of had their heyday. And right now there's a bunch of them selling for 68, 73, 99, and there's not many of them. And I think this will be really, really valuable moving forward, just because Twitter might start to accept NFTs. Now, flipping. Where does flipping make sense? Now, flipping totally does make sense. I've flipped a lot of NFTs. Some I regret, some I've done quite well with, and some I'm happy that I flipped them. I remember buying these Oni 0 and 1 Force avatar projects. So avatar projects, everyone's flipping them. I bought some for 1.5. I sold them recently for 4.5 Ethereum each. And it makes sense to flip them for me personally because I think I flipped some of them because I needed that liquidity and that money to put in some other projects. But in those sort of scenarios, yes, it may make sense to flip. I know this hit 7 Ethereum. I should have flipped it then because I could have rebought at 4.5. But yeah, that is kind of the reason why with these avatar projects, people are seeing their 0.2 Ethereum purchase price turn into something crazy like 4 or 5 Ethereum within a matter of 2 weeks. And suddenly they're like, wait a second, I've 10 to 15, I've 20x my money. Let me take it out. Let me sell 5 or 6 of these and reallocate that into new projects. Remember, 0.2 to 5 ETH is a 25x on your money, but 5 ETH to 10 ETH is only a 2x on your money. So you got to remember that in terms of upside. If you think the upside starts to become slower, like for example, right now, CryptoPunks is about 80 Ethereum. Now, for CryptoPunks to become a 2x, it has to go to 160 Ethereum. That's quite difficult to do. It requires tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to get there. Probably tens of millions of dollars to get there. But it is definitely starting to become a thing of prestige. So I can see CryptoPunks starting to keeping on going. Now, another flipping thing is virtual land. I think virtual land is amazing to flip. I've flipped a virtual land for the first 2 years of my NFT career, and I made a decent amount of coin from it. The cool thing about virtual land or this sort of a model is that everything's subjective, right? So maybe someone wants to get their land next to this one is called Fashion Street, and say someone wants to get land next to Fashion Street, then they may go for this one. And you may be able to sell that for a premium because this particular buyer wants that exact land next to Fashion Street. So this one is for sale for 590,000. Maybe you'll be able to negotiate it lower for 350,000. Looks like this guy's put a bid. And with that money, maybe you can go on to buy something that's undervalued, right? So maybe you flip that one and then you contact the owner of, so for example, this one here, where Crypto Beasties battles get dark. So it looks like a Crypto Beasties person. This one, it says opportunity for large central district with road connection. In some cases, it tells you the address or the person you can contact. Not just a second largest estate. I'm trying to find someone that we can contact. So maybe this guy. No contact details there. No contact details at all. Maybe this guy. Here we go. DCL underscore offers at pm.me. So you may be able to contact him and say, hey man, with the profits I made there, maybe I can buy this land, and you can haggle it down for even more. So, when you flip from land and you sell it because that a specific buyer wants that location, then you can sell it and then rebuy something that you think you can get for a good deal if you can negotiate with the buyer, or maybe you see something on the market. And if you sort of do that sort of flipping activity, then you may be able to continue to reallocate your funds and grow your real estate portfolio in doing so. So that's an interesting thing with Decentraland or virtual land, whether it be some other projects that do that. So flipping kind of makes sense if you think you can reposition yourself. But if there's insane demand coming in because there's something that continues to bring demand for that project, whether it be a game, because the game or the what do you call it? The game will continue to bring a user base, or even Twitter, right? Twitter will go on to build a user base and probably start to experiment more with NFTs. And this will become quite an iconic set of probably the first major social platform to release NFTs. So it's iconic in that sense. And then you've obviously got CryptoPunks and any other historic projects like that. So sometimes it makes sense to flip. Sometimes it makes sense to keep. In my opinion, what I do is, as the upside gets less, in the sense of if things start to become too expensive that to get it to the next stage, it requires just too much capital, or too much money to push it to the next, to exit, I'll try and sell some of my position to reallocate that into something more risky, something that has more upside. Yes, it is more risky, but hopefully with my calculated investing, it should do okay. So those are a few different strategies I do and the reasons why I do them. Hope you learned something. Now, there's no real right or wrong answer. I remember flipping a ferocious piece for, I bought it for $2,000. I sold it for $60,000. And then the next day, the guy resold it for, oh no, wait, I bought it for $2,000. I sold it for $100,000. And the next day, the guy resold it for about $400,000. So single edition art pieces is something I've learned to not flip, because that sort of stuff may become valuable over time as that artist or art market continues to grow. If you really believe in an artist becoming quite a big deal, then in my opinion, you'd hold that, because those are the ones that go on to be worth a lot of money. All right, guys, hope you learned something, and I'll catch you guys in another video.